Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. What if the reason you're exhausted is because you're not being real? Today, we talk about the freedom that begins the moment you stop pretending. Most of us don't wake up one day and decide to hide who we are. It happens quietly, gradually, almost kindly. We learn early that certain parts of us are welcomed and others are tolerated only if we keep them small. We notice which emotions earn approval and which ones make people uncomfortable. We adjust, we soften our edges, we become careful, and over time that carefulness starts to feel like maturity, like strength, like being easy to be around. But something subtle begins to happen when you live that way. You get tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You feel heavy even on good days. You can be surrounded by people and still feel strangely alone. And because nothing is obviously wrong, you assume the problem must be you. You tell yourself you're ungrateful, too sensitive, dramatic. You push harder. You try to be better at holding it all together. What we rarely stop to ask is this: what if the exhaustion isn't coming from life itself, but from the constant effort of managing how you're seen? What if the tiredness is the cost of editing yourself all day long? Awareness begins the moment you notice the mask, not with judgment, but with curiosity. The mask isn't a failure. It's a survival strategy. At some point, it protected you. It helped you belong. It kept you safe. It allowed you to move through spaces where being fully yourself didn't feel possible. And because it worked, you kept wearing it. You became good at it. So good that you forgot it wasn't your face. The problem isn't that you learned how to adapt. The problem is when adaptation becomes your identity. You might notice the mask in small moments. The pause before you speak, where you quickly calculate how your words will land, the automatic smile that shows up even when you're hurting, the way you say it's fine when it's not, because explaining the truth feels like too much work or too much risk. You might notice it in your body first. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, a jaw that's always clenched. Your body often knows before your mind admits it. This is where awareness matters, not the kind that turns into self-criticism, but the kind that gently says, "Oh, this is where I disappear." Awareness doesn't ask you to rip the mask off in public. It simply invites you to see when you're wearing it. Many of us confuse being real with being reckless. We think honesty means confrontation, oversharing, or emotional chaos, so we stay silent instead. But being real at its core is much quieter than that. It starts internally. It's the private acknowledgement of what you actually feel. The moment you stop arguing with your own experience, the instant you let yourself think, "This is hard," without immediately minimizing it. The inner struggle here is fear, specifically the fear of rejection. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that belonging was conditional, that love could be withdrawn, that approval had to be earned. And so we made a deal with ourselves. If I stay agreeable, if I stay useful, if I don't ask for too much, I'll be safe. That deal might have made sense once, but deals made in survival don't always serve us in adulthood. The cost of that deal shows up later. It shows up as resentment you don't know what to do with, as numbness, as a quiet grief for a version of yourself that feels distant but familiar. You might not even know who you are underneath the roles you play. Caretaker, achiever, peacemaker, strong one. When someone asks what you want, your mind goes blank, not because you don't care, but because you've practiced not knowing. Awareness is the beginning of freedom because it interrupts the autopilot. It gives you a choice. You can't change what you can't see, but once you see it, something loosens. You realize that the mask isn't you. It's something you learned. And what is learned can be unlearned, gently, patiently, in your own time. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, "What do they expect from me?" and begin asking, "What's true for me right now?" That question alone can feel radical, even dangerous. You might worry that if you listen to yourself, everything will fall apart, that people will leave, that you'll disappoint everyone. But awareness doesn't demand action. It only asks for honesty. And honesty, especially at first, is internal. It's allowing yourself to name the discomfort instead of numbing it. It's recognizing when you're performing instead of participating. It's noticing the difference between peace and approval and realizing you've been chasing the wrong one. The mask promises safety, but it comes at a price. It protects you from being judged, but it also keeps you from being known. And being known, truly known, is a human need, not a luxury. When you deny that need long enough, your soul starts to protest, not loudly, quietly, through fatigue, through disconnection, through a sense that life is happening somewhere else. The moment you notice the mask, you're already changing. Awareness itself is an act of courage. It means you're no longer willing to abandon yourself just to be accepted. It means you're beginning to understand that belonging to everyone else means very little if it costs you belonging to yourself. A simple practice can begin here. At the end of the day, ask yourself one gentle question. Where did I hide today? Not to shame yourself, just to notice. And then ask, what was I protecting? Often, the answer will be tender. Fear, old wounds, a longing to be loved. When you meet those answers with compassion instead of criticism, something profound happens. The mask starts to loosen on its own. Because the truth is, the mask was never the problem. Forgetting that you had a choice was. And awareness is the moment you remember. Allowing yourself to be seen is one of the most frightening and at the same time liberating experiences a person can have. For so long, we live behind walls we've built brick by brick, carefully arranging our lives so that only certain pieces of ourselves are visible. We reveal what we believe is safe, socially acceptable, or admirable, and we tuck the rest away where it cannot be judged, criticized, or misunderstood. But hiding comes at a cost. And that cost is not always obvious until one quiet evening when you find yourself utterly exhausted, your chest heavy with the weight of the stories you've carried silently. The first step toward being truly seen is noticing that you are hiding. It might be small at first. An extra smile, a slightly altered story, the way you tone down your laughter or your opinions so that no one feels challenged. Maybe it's the way you push your own desires to the back burner because you've been conditioned to believe that your wants are less important than maintaining harmony. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's always there. And the longer you live this way, the more the invisible walls feel like the natural order of life. You begin to mistake your carefully curated self for who you are. But beneath the walls, beneath the careful performance, there is a part of you that is aching to be known. This part whispers in quiet moments, I am enough. I am real. I have feelings that matter, even if they are messy, even if they are inconvenient, even if they make other people uncomfortable. And yet, the whisper is met with caution, because from a young age, many of us were taught that our full selves are not always welcome, that too much emotion is dangerous, that asking for help is weakness, that being honest about what we feel, what we think, and what we need could push people away. So we build the walls higher. We hide our anxiety behind a practiced calm. We hide our tears behind a smile. We hide our dreams behind practicality. And somewhere along the way, hiding feels like the safest choice. It shields us from judgment, disappointment, and rejection. But it also shields us from connection, intimacy, and the profound freedom that comes from showing up as we truly are. The inner struggle in allowing yourself to be seen is very real. It is the collision between fear and desire. Fear whispers that if you reveal yourself fully, you will be rejected, abandoned, or hurt. Fear reminds you of every time you felt vulnerable and small, every time you were criticized, mocked, or ignored. It reminds you that there is a price to being open, and it is a heavy price. Desire, on the other hand, whispers a quiet but insistent truth, that you were made for connection, that you deserve to be known, that there is a life waiting for you beyond pretense. Desire urges you to risk, to stretch, to feel the trembling, exhilarating freedom of being real. Allowing yourself to be seen does not mean spilling every thought, emotion, or detail to everyone. It does not mean reckless honesty or oversharing. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, with small choices and gentle acts of courage. It begins when you allow a friend to see the truth of your exhaustion rather than pretending you are fine. It begins when you admit to yourself that you are scared, sad, or unsure. It begins when you stop editing your feelings to fit into what you think is acceptable or safe. The truth is, being seen is not about what others think of you. It is about what you think of yourself when you stop hiding. It is about standing in your own truth, even if the world around you has not yet learned to honor it. And standing in your truth is not easy. It requires patience, practice, and a willingness to face discomfort. Because for most of us, being real triggers an old, deep-seated fear, the fear that we are not enough, that we will be rejected for simply being who we are. But here is the paradox. The more you allow yourself to be seen, the more freedom you feel. The walls that once protected you begin to crumble, and in their place, something stronger emerges. A sense of alignment between your inner world and your outer life. You discover that the people who matter most, the ones capable of deep empathy, true connection, and enduring love, don't judge your cracks. They meet them, they honor them, and they mirror back to you the beauty of your authenticity. One of the hardest moments in this process is realizing that not everyone will welcome your authenticity. Some people may recoil, some may attempt to convince you that your truth is too much, too difficult, too inconvenient. That is a painful lesson, but it is also a necessary one. Freedom does not mean approval. It does not mean that every relationship will survive. It means that you choose alignment over acceptance and peace over people-pleasing. It means you honor yourself, even if others cannot. A reflective line that lingers in moments like this is simple but powerful. Connection doesn't require perfection, only honesty. It is a quiet reminder that intimacy is not born from flawless appearances, but from the courage to reveal your real self. The parts that wobble, the parts that ache, and the parts that shine. Practical steps toward allowing yourself to be seen begin with small, intentional acts. Start by identifying one area of your life where you have been performing rather than participating. Maybe it is at work, with friends, or even within your own family. Ask yourself, where have I been hiding out of fear? And then, with careful courage, choose to show up differently. Speak your truth. Express your feelings. Say no when it matters. Say yes when it matters. Let your boundaries, your desires, and your emotions be visible. Another simple practice is to write down your feelings each day, not as a diary for anyone else, but as a mirror to yourself. Name the emotions you are experiencing without judgment or apology. Notice patterns, triggers, and moments where you withhold. Over time, this quiet act of self-recognition builds your capacity to be seen because you have already witnessed yourself. You have already validated yourself. You have already acknowledged that your experiences, your needs, and your presence matter. The process is gradual. There will be moments of doubt, fear, and even regret. There will be days when you wish you could retreat behind your old walls. That is normal. Growth is not linear, and being seen is not a state you arrive at permanently. It is a daily practice, a series of choices to show up as your whole self in the world. And each time you choose authenticity, your sense of freedom grows. You breathe more deeply, feel more fully, and walk through life with a quiet integrity that cannot be taught. It can only be lived. At its core, allowing yourself to be seen is a profound act of self-respect. It says to the world, I am here, I matter, I will not shrink to make others comfortable. And it also whispers to yourself, I will no longer hide from the life I am meant to live. I will not deny my own humanity. In the delicate tension between fear and courage, you discover your strength. In the moments of trembling honesty, you find your power. And in every small step toward visibility, you cultivate a freedom that cannot be borrowed, manipulated, or taken away. It is yours because you claimed it by being real. No one else can grant you this freedom. It is not earned by achievements, accolades, or approval. It is claimed in quiet moments of courage, in the willingness to be imperfect, messy, and human. It begins the moment you allow yourself to be fully seen, and it grows every time you choose truth over comfort, presence over performance, and integrity over conformity. So start small. Notice where you have hidden. Speak one truth. Express one real feeling. Show one part of yourself that has been unseen, and watch as the walls slowly fall away, leaving space for life, connection, and the profound freedom of being fully, unapologetically you. Choosing courage over comfort is not a decision that comes once and sticks forever. It is a daily, often quiet practice, a conscious choice to step into uncertainty rather than retreat to the familiar. We have spent years perfecting the art of comfort, blending in, avoiding conflict, minimizing our needs, suppressing our fears, and burying our truth. Comfort feels safe. It feels predictable. It is what we know. But comfort is also where potential quietly withers. The moments we most long to live fully, to love deeply, to speak honestly, to embrace our authenticity. These moments almost always live on the other side of fear. Fear is a faithful companion to anyone who has learned to survive by avoiding risk. It warns us about judgment, rejection, loss, and disappointment. It whispers that to show up as we truly are is dangerous. It reminds us of every past moment when honesty felt risky and every time vulnerability was met with criticism or silence. It reminds us that comfort, though small and sometimes suffocating, is reliable. It feels safe because we know it. Fear is persuasive. It convinces us to settle. It convinces us to hide. It convinces us that the price of courage is too high, even when we are aching for it in our bones. But the truth is that courage and comfort rarely coexist. The very act of stepping into courage requires leaving something familiar behind. It requires listening to the quiet, insistent voice that says, "I will not shrink to please others. I will not hide what matters to me. I will not allow fear to dictate the terms of my life." And while that voice may be small, its persistence is transformative. Every time you answer it, every time you make the choice to act, despite the trembling inside, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was lost to fear. Courage often comes in deceptively small increments. It is in raising your hand to speak in a room where you usually stay silent. It is in voicing a truth that feels dangerous but necessary. It is in setting a boundary that others might question or resist. It is in walking away from relationships, patterns, or environments that no longer honor your values. Courage is not always grand or heroic in the cinematic sense. Most of the time, it is quiet, unnoticed, and deeply internal. And yet, it is in these small, repeated acts that lives are transformed. The inner struggle in choosing courage over comfort is complex because it is not a simple decision. We want to live fully, authentically, and in alignment with our truth, yet we also crave approval, stability, and belonging. The tension between these two desires is what makes courage so difficult. On one side is the longing for freedom, the life we imagine if we could show up fully. On the other side is the pull of fear, the familiar patterns that promise safety. Often the fear is louder at first. It is louder because we have rehearsed it. We have given it weight and authority, and it has become a habit, a default setting that keeps us small. But courage is contagious. It grows the more we practice it. The first few times you choose courage over comfort, it feels risky, exposed, almost reckless. Your heart pounds, your stomach twists, and your mind races with what ifs. And yet each act of courage leaves a residue, a small but undeniable proof that you can handle discomfort, that you can withstand judgment, that you can survive and even thrive when you are authentic. Over time, those residues accumulate. The trembling lessens. The fear does not disappear entirely, but it becomes quieter, more manageable. You start to recognize it for what it is, a signal, not a dictator. There is also a subtle but profound realization that happens along the way. Comfort is not the absence of difficulty. It is the avoidance of truth. By choosing courage, you discover that living fully is not about eliminating fear, hardship, or uncertainty. It is about walking through those realities with integrity, honesty, and presence. Life is never completely safe, but living from courage ensures that your energy is spent aligning with what matters rather than sustaining appearances, performing for approval, or protecting a fragile sense of security. A reflective line that captures this tension is, courage is staying true, even when it costs you applause. It reminds us that the measure of bravery is not in public recognition, but in the quiet, often invisible decisions to honor our values, speak our truths, and act from alignment rather than fear. Courage is about showing up for yourself when the world cannot or will not validate your choice. It is about self-trust, self-respect, and a growing recognition that your inner authority matters more than external approval. Practically speaking, choosing courage over comfort begins with noticing the small ways we avoid our truth. Where do you soften your opinions to avoid conflict? Where do you suppress your desires to maintain approval? Where do you shrink so others feel bigger or safer? These are the moments that matter most because they are the opportunities to exercise courage daily. Start with one small act. Speak the thought you usually edit. Express a feeling you usually conceal. Set a boundary you usually bend. Each act is a declaration, I will not hide anymore. Another simple but powerful practice is reflection. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did I choose comfort over courage today? What could I do differently tomorrow? This is not self-criticism. It is gentle observation. It is a way of training your mind to recognize the moments where courage is possible. By reflecting, you create awareness, and awareness is the foundation for consistent action. Courage, like a muscle, grows stronger with repetition, awareness, and attention. It is also important to acknowledge the emotional and physical sensations that come with choosing courage. Anxiety, vulnerability, and doubt are natural companions to authenticity. They are not signs that you are doing something wrong. They are signs that you are alive, awake, and stretching beyond familiar limits. Breathing into these sensations rather than fleeing from them allows you to experience courage as a lived reality rather than an abstract ideal. One of the most transformative aspects of choosing courage over comfort is its effect on relationships. When you act from integrity and speak honestly, you create the space for deeper, more authentic connections. You may lose relationships that were built on pretense, but you gain relationships that honor your truth. You may face resistance, confusion, or even anger from those unaccustomed to authenticity, but over time, courage becomes magnetic. It draws people who resonate with your honesty, who value your integrity, and who inspire you to continue showing up fully. Ultimately, choosing courage over comfort is about living in alignment with who you are meant to be, not who you are expected to be. It is about reclaiming your life from fear, obligation, and performative behaviors. It is about saying yes to yourself when you have been saying yes to everyone else. It is about stepping into the fullness of your own humanity with all its imperfections, contradictions, and brilliance. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that what matters more than safety is being real, being present, and being fully alive. So start small. Notice the moments where fear is directing your choices. Take one deliberate action that aligns with your truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Reflect, breathe, and honor yourself for the courage it takes. Each day you practice this, you expand the space in which you can live freely. You may never stop feeling fear, but you will stop letting it control you. You will discover that your life grows richer, deeper, and more meaningful when you are willing to step out of comfort and into courage. And in those moments of trembling honesty, you will realize something profound. Freedom, joy, and true connection are always found on the other side of fear. Letting life reorganize itself is a process that most of us resist. We like control. We like predictability. We like the illusion that if we hold on tightly enough, nothing unexpected can hurt us. And yet, life has a way of gently, or sometimes violently, reminding us that control is never complete. Change is inevitable. People leave, situations shift, plans fall apart. And when you have spent years trying to manage perception, maintain appearances, and protect yourself from uncertainty, the inevitability of change can feel terrifying. When you stop pretending and start living authentically, you begin to notice how much of your life has been structured around expectation rather than truth. The routines you thought were necessary, the roles you thought you had to play, the habits you believed were required for acceptance. Many of these things may no longer fit, and that is not a failure, it is a signal. It is life asking you to make space. Space for honesty, for growth, for alignment with the person you are actually becoming. The inner struggle in this moment is real and often uncomfortable. Fear whispers again, what if I lose stability? What if I disappoint people? What if I make a mistake I can't take back? We worry about the reactions of others and the consequences we cannot predict. We worry about the uncertainty that comes with letting go. And yet, Holding on too tightly to what no longer serves us comes at an equal or greater cost. It drains our energy, clouds our clarity, and keeps us from fully inhabiting the life that is possible. When you let life reorganize itself, you are not being passive. You are not giving up. You are choosing to align with reality instead of forcing an illusion. You are recognizing that what belongs in your life will fit naturally, while what does not will create tension if you cling to it. This does not mean that change is easy. It does not mean that the letting go does not hurt. It means that you are learning to trust the process, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is unfamiliar, and even when it shakes the foundations of your sense of safety. There is a quiet wisdom in noticing what falls away. Relationships that were once vital may drift apart. Commitments that once defined you may lose their significance. Roles that once felt necessary may no longer reflect who you are. And in noticing this, there is often a mixture of grief and relief. Grief for the familiar that is gone. Relief for the weight that is lifted. Relief for the opportunity to fill the space with something more aligned with your truth. A reflective line that captures this tension is, authenticity doesn't destroy your life. It clarifies it. It reminds us that letting go is not about chaos or loss for the sake of loss. It is about making room for clarity, peace, and alignment. It is about noticing the difference between what is essential and what is extraneous. It is about understanding that not everything that leaves is rejection. Sometimes it is simply space being created for what truly matters. Practically, letting life reorganize begins with awareness and intentional reflection. Start by observing your routines, relationships, and commitments without judgment. Ask yourself, what feels heavy? What drains me instead of energizing me? What roles am I playing that no longer resonate with who I am becoming? These questions are not about abandoning responsibility. They are about aligning with reality. They are about discerning what deserves your attention and energy and what deserves to be released. Change also requires courage because it often challenges deeply held beliefs. We may believe that stability equals security, that predictability equals safety, or that others' approval equals worth. Letting life reorganize calls these beliefs into question. It asks us to trust that life has a way of balancing itself, that clarity comes from presence rather than force, and that what is meant for us will remain even as what is not gradually falls away. Another aspect of this process is embracing discomfort as a signal rather than a threat. Change often feels like a loss, even when it is necessary. You may feel anxious, uncertain, or sad. These feelings are not mistakes or weaknesses. They are indicators that you are stepping into something new. Instead of resisting, practice sitting with the discomfort. Notice it. Name it. Breathe through it. Over time, the discomfort will evolve into clarity, and the space left behind will begin to feel like freedom rather than emptiness. Part of letting life reorganize is also understanding that you cannot control other people's reactions. Some relationships will falter. Some expectations will be unmet. Some people may resist or challenge your authenticity. This can be painful, but it is also liberating. It forces you to recognize that your worth is not tied to others' approval or adherence to their expectations. It forces you to anchor yourself in your own truth. And in that anchoring, you discover a profound sense of stability that does not depend on the external world, but on your own alignment with reality and integrity. A simple practice for embracing this process is to identify one area of life where you have been holding on too tightly and deliberately. Create space. Release a commitment that no longer serves your growth. Set a boundary that honors your well-being. Step away from a situation where you have been compromising your truth for the sake of comfort. Observe what happens. Notice how it feels in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. You may feel fear at first, but you will also feel relief, lightness, and a sense of possibility that was previously obscured. Another practice is to reflect daily on what has shifted or changed without judgment or attachment. Ask yourself, what naturally fell away today? What did I hold on to unnecessarily? What new space has opened for clarity, creativity, or connection? These reflections create a rhythm of awareness, reinforcing the understanding that letting go is not loss. It is preparation. preparation for a life that is aligned, authentic, and deeply connected to your own values and desires. Over time, letting life reorganize teaches a subtle but transformative lesson. Freedom is not about controlling the outcome. Freedom is about aligning with the process. It is about honoring your own truth while letting the world around you adjust, settle, or respond in its own time. It is about releasing the expectation that everything should remain the same so that you can fully inhabit the life that is possible in each present moment. The most profound aspect of this transformation is internal. When you allow life to reorganize, you are creating space for your own growth, creativity, and clarity. You are no longer expending energy on maintaining appearances or holding on to roles that do not serve you. You are cultivating a life in which your choices, actions, and relationships are rooted in truth, not obligation or fear. You are discovering that the world does not collapse when you let go. It rearranges itself, often in ways that feel more natural, more aligned, and more alive than anything you could have forced into existence. Ultimately, letting life reorganize is a declaration of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in the unfolding of reality. It is a conscious decision to release control while remaining present, to embrace uncertainty while cultivating resilience, and to create space for what truly belongs in your life. The clarity and freedom that emerge from this practice are not external rewards. They are internal states, anchored in awareness, authenticity, and the courage to honor what is real rather than what is comfortable. So begin gently. Notice what feels heavy, unnecessary, or misaligned. Take one small step to release or adjust. Observe what happens. Trust that what is meant for you will find its place, and what is not will leave, making room for clarity and possibility. Over time, the process becomes natural. The fear of loss diminishes. The sense of freedom grows. And you discover a profound truth. Life, when allowed to reorganize, does not take away. It liberates. Living from the inside out is the culmination of all the work we have done. The awareness, the vulnerability, the courage, the letting go. It is the quiet, steady rhythm of aligning your life with who you truly are, rather than who you have been told to be. It is the practice of showing up for yourself every day, even when no one else notices, even when no one else approves, and even when it feels risky or uncomfortable. It is a way of life that refuses to shrink in order to fit into someone else's expectations, and instead chooses authenticity as the guiding principle of all choices, actions, and relationships. The inner struggle here is subtle but persistent. Even after years of growth, even after practicing honesty and courage, the old patterns of approval-seeking, self-doubt, and people-pleasing do not simply vanish. There are still moments when fear whispers, "What if I am too much? What if I fail? What if I disappoint?" These thoughts are natural because the habit of hiding is deeply ingrained. But living from the inside out is about noticing these thoughts without letting them dictate your actions. It is about recognizing that your internal compass is more reliable than external validation. Living from the inside out begins with a deep respect for your own inner life. It begins with asking yourself honest questions. What do I need today? What aligns with my values? Where am I bending in ways that feel unnatural? These questions are not selfish, they are necessary. They are the foundation of integrity, because integrity is not merely about how you behave in public. It is about how you honor yourself when no one else is watching. By practicing this internal alignment, you create a life in which your decisions, behaviors, and relationships flow naturally from who you are at your core. One of the most powerful aspects of living this way is the clarity it brings. When your choices are rooted in truth rather than fear, life begins to feel lighter, more coherent, and more meaningful. You begin to recognize which relationships, commitments, and habits are nourishing and which are draining. You become attuned to the difference between obligation and desire, between expectation and authenticity, between performance and presence. And in that awareness, you discover a new sense of freedom, the freedom to act intentionally, to create intentionally, and to engage in life without constantly adjusting yourself to meet external demands. A reflective line that captures this idea is, freedom isn't becoming more, it's pretending less. It is a quiet but profound reminder that growth is not measured by accomplishments, accolades, or appearances. True growth is measured by the alignment between your internal truth and your external life. It is measured by how often you choose presence over performance, authenticity over pretense, and courage over comfort. It is measured by the degree to which you honor your own values, needs, and emotions, even when doing so feels risky. Practically speaking, living from the inside out requires regular, intentional self-reflection. Start each day with a simple check-in. How do I feel? What do I need? What choices can I make today that honor my truth? These questions may feel uncomfortable at first because they ask you to slow down and face yourself honestly. But over time, they build a habit of self-attunement that strengthens your ability to respond to life from authenticity rather than reaction. Another practical step is to observe where you are still performing or compromising unnecessarily. Where are you saying yes when you want to say no? Where are you minimizing your own feelings to keep the peace? Where are you editing your behavior to meet someone else's expectations rather than living according to your values? Once you notice these patterns, you can begin to make deliberate choices to act differently. This does not require grand gestures. Small, consistent acts of alignment accumulate into a profound transformation. Living from the inside out also requires embracing the discomfort of imperfection. When you prioritize authenticity over perfection, you will inevitably stumble, make mistakes, and face moments of vulnerability. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of life fully lived. Mistakes, missteps, and challenges are part of the process of growth. Each time you recover, reflect, and realign, you reinforce the practice of internal integrity. You learn that your worth is not contingent on flawless performance, but on the courage to show up, fully present, fully human, and fully alive. Another aspect of this practice is cultivating emotional awareness. Emotions are not obstacles to be overcome or suppressed. They are signals, guides, and indicators of alignment or misalignment. By paying attention to how you feel, you can discern where you are living authentically and where you are not. Anger, sadness, joy, fear, and excitement all carry valuable information. By observing them without judgment, you create the space to act with intention rather than